So coming to the other side of Enneagram, which is again which is mostly explored by Gurdjieff, beyond the personality type, how Enneagram is significant in a personal level evolution, or an individual or a spirit level evolution. So what is identified outside, if we see, what is in the periphery is the personality, as to how we show up and how others show up to us. This is where we train, as I mentioned earlier, we train others in a certain way. We continuously train those who are around us to look us in a certain way. We want to showcase ourselves in a certain way, which is not the real us. I want to show myself in a way that people looks at me so that I get recognized, but that may not be the real I. The real I lies in this central core, that's the essence, which goes through different filters and comes out in the form of personality, mostly identified with a dominant personality type. So that is how I train others to look at me. Same way I train myself in a way that I perceive in a certain way. I perceive myself in a certain way that this is what I am, this is how I am. I reiterate and I think about that. It's like a constant iteration of thoughts about ourselves. Oh, I am weak, or I am. So this comes in the form of different apps we install in ourselves. And this is further strengthened by our cognitive dissonance. What we believe, we try to get examples for that. We try to get justification, or what is a reasoning for that. And we prove ourselves statistically that we are this. Same thing we do with others. So that is what exposed in the form of personality in the outer layer. Then comes the character fixation. This is actually the personality type is a manifestation of the character fixation. So which I'm just getting into the next slide, which will be clarified better there. The real self resides in the central core, that is the essence, that is called the essence. It is identified as essence. And from personality to essence, how we evolve. Gurdjieffian Enneagram is mostly, the Gurdjieffian version is addressing that how we move from our personality level, behavioral level, back to our identity and beyond identity level. Some of you might practice NLP. There is 6 neurological levels in NLP. If we compare it with, so personality is mostly connected with the behavior and the environment we are in, whereas essence is beyond our identity. And very interesting that each of us have a name, and we are very much identified with the name, and very difficult to change the name. Suppose if I give a gazette this thing, that I remember one of my senior, his name was Nishad when I was studying in the school. So somehow they identified the meaning of the name Nishad is not positive. Someone who is who walks in the night, or who is identified to be a, they say, Dr. not Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of person. So that personality was depicted by the name Nishad. So he changed his name, Nanda Kumar. But even now I remember him with the name Nishad. He can't accept that name. How much ever he is dissatisfied by his own name, he can't accept a new name because it's a new identity. That core level, our identity level, that is coming in our character fixation. It is very difficult to remove ourselves from that names. So I don't know whether Kumaran, can you change the name every day or every week or every year? This year I'll be called something else. Is it anyway, is it possible?
No.
May not be. So likewise, we are too much, identified with our names in a very cellular level. Likewise, when it comes to the personality level, we are identified with our personality, which is not that core like our character fixation, but this personality is also identified to be something difficult to change overnight. And Enneagram school, some of them believe that, and most of them believe that Enneagram type cannot be changed. It is like we evolved from there. That means we are not changing a particular Enneagram type. I am not changing from A to B, 1 to 3, or 3 to 9. I'm not changing. But I evolve and I integrate myself to a higher level without losing my original, supposedly, personality. So here comes, I was there may be some clarity required for this thing. Here comes it. So centers of intelligence and emotions, if we understand, we are driven by passions. So passions are mostly identified, if we see in Enneagram, passions are identified by this heart center. We identify these people are driven by the passion, by their passions. So passion is identified to be a lower feeling center, which is of the heart, which is an attribute of the heart, and which is how the personality types 2, 3, and 4 are identified. And they have fixations, which I mentioned above, which is a lower intellectual center, which is their lower intellectual center, where it is connected to those who did TA, transactional analysis. Probably it is connected to our script, what we believe in our early formative years of our life, what we believe. We get fixed with our belief, how the beliefs and values are formed, maybe in a neurological level, okay, and if we identify how these beliefs, core beliefs and core values, what is important for us, how we see ourselves, how we want others to certify ourselves. That is, those are the fixations, which is an attribute of the lower intellectual center. So evolution happened from lower intellectual center to higher intellectual center. So mind has lower and higher vibrations as we evolve, as we transform from types. There's a book called Types to Transformation by A.B. Robbins, which I have not taken today. It's actually a very interesting book if you read. It speaks more about evolving, how we can evolve ourselves from the types to the essence, which I mentioned earlier, to the core center of the essence, or the real self, which we have seen in the movie Matrix, how we are plugged in somewhere else, and how we happen to be our own metaphors, or how we happen to be our own duplicates in a different world, which is again a duplication of the real, or a shadow of the real world. So how we integrate from our passions to the virtues, which virtues are belonging to the higher feeling center. How we evolve from fixations to the holy ideas, which is our higher intellectual center. So Gurdjieffian Enneagram is mostly concerned with this evolution, personal, individual level evolution, where typology is mostly not addressed. But this can be integrated with the Enneagram typology, how we transform from our types to an integrated self. It's like a mask. If we are locked if we are in a house, if we lock ourselves in a room, and there is no power, it is night, we are searching for the key, we cannot find the key, we are locked in a room, a house with 9 rooms. So when we lock ourselves in that room, sometimes learning Enneagram itself will be a threat for us. We'll lock ourselves in a room. So we need to identify the idea of evolution from our own type, our own fixations. So so that this is an open house where we can get into any room anytime at will, as and when required, because every room has its own hidden treasure in it. And the house probably has 3 different major entries. That could be the body, that could be the heart, that could be the, head. These 3 intelligence centers. So that's the beauty of Enneagram. Enneagram we learn in a very different way, where we see each of these as metaphors, and we can identify our own possible metaphors. One metaphor which really intrigued me, which I'll just come to that. Before that, this part is clear. This is a little, Is this a little complicated or something? Is it clear? This is again an approach to Enneagram. This is not a particular what do you say? This is again an approach, possible approach to Enneagram. So how the holy ideas we evolve into from holy ideas, fixation to holy ideas. Here it shows how we evolve from passion to virtues, instinct or gut, which again, here you can see the instinctual part, preservation, sexual, social. These three centers are part of the instincts, which is again the body type. If we identify, body is 8, 9 and 1 are the body types. If we identify them, there are certain instincts which are nothing but preservation, which is mostly individual. Sexual, it is interpersonal. Social, in a group, how we are. So based on this body typology itself, Claudio Naranjo has explored Enneagram further. That each of the type 1, type 1, 2, 3, for each of these type has an instinctual subtype, which can be identified with, type 1 social, type 2, type 1 sexual, type 1 preservation. So these three type 1s behave in very different ways. So we cannot simply say that all type 1s, we cannot put them in a category and believe that type 1s behave this thing. It's not that linear as we think. Type 1 itself, correct. And probably if we go even deeper, type 1 social personalities need not necessarily behave in a certain way. There are certain tendencies which make their behavior similar, especially in stressed situations, in situations where they have limited choices. They get into that the instincts of the type. So that instinctual typology. So if we see Enneagram itself believes, all Enneagram practitioners believe that there is a certain problem with humanity. There's a problem with us. Maybe we can identify this with the basic idea of the cardinal sins probably mentioned in Christianity, or probably we can connect it with the law of karma maybe in Hindu tradition. So there are different ways it has been explored. So ours is a disintegrated personality. There is some issue, there's some problem because of which this real energy got converted into mass in the form of us. That is where our fixations are. That's where our passions are. That's our instincts are. So evolving. So we are already disintegrated from the real essence, which is highly intellectual and highly emotional, which represents the higher vibrational state of our being or our mind, from how we disintegrated down to these fixation, passion, and instincts. Fixation is of the head, that is type 5, 6, and 7. Passion is of the heart, that is type 2, 3, and 4. And instincts, that is nothing but type 8, 9, and 1, that is of the body or the gut. So we have to integrate from this level back to the virtues and holy ideas, that is of the higher emotions and the higher intelligence that we are originally attributing. Probably when we are born with the less of samskaras or tendencies or whatever we call, we can be more integrated towards ourselves. So we get disintegrated because of some already existing spark inside us, which is further, so Enneagram by nature and nurture, we get into this personality type. So in Malayalam there's a saying, Jatyaluladu Tutal Pulana, means what is there by nature, it will end till our end. So this is one approach to Enneagram for personal evolution. This is again a choice, or we can do it mostly for our improvement of our persona, how to be a better human being is another choice, or how to evolve from a human, better human to a probably a divine level. That's where all this comes into these greater ideas of virtues, holy ideas, and all come there. That's why many of the religions, if we see, they were practicing one way or other. Enneagram they were practicing, so it has some such connections, but it is probably used in different names and different ways and different how it has been. It's mostly orally transmitted, so how it has been changed over a period of time, like Chinese whisper, we don't know.